I've heard a lot of different opinions on the Scion of the Three Rogue. Personally, I like it quite a lot, though I've heard a lot of people say they think it's underpowered. So what I want to do today is go in and do my initial build on how I would approach playing a Scion of the Three Rogue, because I do think it gives us some unique build opportunities that other rogues aren't going to be taking an advantage of. So right off the bat, I want this to be an intelligence-based build. The reason why is the more intelligence we have, the more reaction sneak attacks we get as Scion of the Three, which is our main feature. So we really want to abuse that as often as possible. So that tells us we're going to want to pick up True Strike, and probably the easiest place to pick that up is from our background. So the first consideration you're going to have is how important lucky is to you. And I think it's pretty dang important. The reason why I'm talking about this is if you want lucky as well as a background that gives you True Strike, you're going to need to go human. Also, I'm going to be going human myself. Human does so much for us. The first thing it's going to do is allow us to have an extra feat, so we can take Magic Initiate, pick up True Strike, but we can also take Lucky, and Lucky is extremely good on this build. We'll talk more about that later, and we also get Heroic Inspiration, which is super good for this build. We'll talk more about that later. And we also get a skill. We're going to be a rogue skill monkey like normal. But what's interesting is we can kind of be more of an intelligence-based skill monkey. So we can focus more on something like the study action than you would do on some sort of infiltration. Not that you have to. You could still do infiltration. You'll be a few points behind other rogues, but you're going to have expertise. So you're still going to be fantastic. With our skill, I want to pick up nature as a human. Humans have the versatility to pick up any skill. This one's going to be harder for us to get, and it's one of the ones we definitely want by being an intelligence-based skill monkey. With our origin feat, I'm going to be picking up Lucky, and then in our background, I'm going to be picking up Sage. We get Arcana and History, which are awesome skills for us because we're going to be an intelligence-based skill user, and these are two of the skills that we want for that set. Here we get Magic Initiate, which is going to give us a couple different spells. We're going to do all of these under our intelligence modifier, and the first one's going to be True Strike. With the second one, I wanted to deal with the fact that we don't have Dark Vision, so I'm going to be taking Light so we have options to infiltrate even though we can't see in the dark. There's a couple really fun first level spells you could take. You could take something like Fog Cloud, but I do think it's pretty hard to beat Find Familiar. Other ideas include Featherfall or Jump. Ways to move around the battlefield or help with infiltrations is more what I'm looking for than something that deals damage. We're going to be doing +2/+1 ability scores, and we're going to be focusing on intelligence first, constitution second, and that way we can get 14 in dexterity and constitution. So this is an example of what you might want to do with your stats. The intelligence, dexterity, and constitution are all basically what you want to do, and then you can kind of mix the other ones around based on, do you want to be more of a face or do you want better wisdom saves? That's up to you. Alright, we're in the level by level breakdown. Now from the rogue, we're going to get some more skills. The only one that's going to matter for our intelligence-based skill playstyle is going to be investigation. And the other three I'm using to kind of cover the more infiltrator side of us: stealth, sleight of hands, and acrobatics, which also helps us with grapples. It's really well rounded. It allows us to be the intelligence-based skill monkey. The only skill we're missing at level 1 for the study action is religion, and we want to pick that up later, but for now, we are already a skill monkey that can hit almost every single creature in the game with a study action and be able to analyze them. How far that goes with your DM, completely up to them, but the point of the matter is we are an intelligence-based skill monkey as a rogue, which is cool because basically the only other person who can do that right now is the wizard, so it's cool rogues have a unique niche. And I love to take advantage of that by being an intelligence-based rogue, which the Scion of the Three totally enables. We'll talk more about that later. Our only important choice in level 1 is our weapon masteries. These are a big deal. The first one is we're going to want to pick up Rapier, and the second one is we want to pick up Darts. Both of these give us Vex, one in a melee option, which is important because when we teleport stab someone in the back, we're going to be using melee, but we also want a ranged option because we're an intelligence-based rogue, our AC is typically going to be lower than a normal rogue's. So we also want the option to be in the background. Either way, we're setting up Vex. Vex is massive for us. Not only is it going to allow us to continually get advantage, which makes us more likely to hit our sneak attacks, it also allows us to continue hitting the same enemy even if our allies leave their vicinity. And most importantly, it means that when we make a dexterity opportunity attack, we really want to have advantage because our dexterity is lower than our intelligence. We really want to have advantage to make up for that difference. Now, Vex is our primary way of doing that, but if you ever get the opportunity attack, and you're going for the sneak attack and you don't have advantage, that's a good time to either use your heroic inspiration or a luck point to set up advantage so that you can be more likely to hit, so that you can get your Vex chains going. As for expertise, I want to end History and Arcana. Those are some huge creature types that you get to analyze at an absurd rate. Because of the way we're designing this character, our bonus action is open. So we have cunning action to do dash, disengage, or hide. The two I really like for combat most of all is usually going to be disengage and hide. Disengage allows us to use our rapier, which lets us do more damage, so if we're in a good situation where we can go in and out of melee, we prefer to, but our safety comes first. And in those situations, hide is extremely good because that's another way of creating advantage for us, and it's another way of keeping damage from hitting us. So the hide action is number one, then we have disengage, then we have dash when we need it. So I want to take a second and talk about Bloodthirst. I really like Bloodthirst as a feature. Now, I've heard somebody say that up to 5 sneak attacks per long rest is not really all that great. And I don't agree. I think 5 extra sneak attacks per long rest is quite a bit of extra damage. So typically a fighter with 2 short rests is going to have 3 action surges. So they're getting fewer opportunities to use their action on top of themselves than we get. We get more sneak attacks and damage than they do, and we don't have to wait for a short rest if we want to compact a bunch of those sneak attacks early in the day as opposed to later. Although there's probably wisdom in saving some for later in case there's a crazy big combat. Also at level 3, we're getting Steady Aim. Steady Aim is going to allow us to trade our movement for advantage. If you're in a position where you can use Steady Aim, do it. If you're not, then go ahead and use a luck point or a heroic inspiration and then chain it with your Vexes. We really don't want to be missing our sneak attacks often. Now, my philosophy with rogues is never miss a sneak attack or use your reactions to get sneak attacks. That's how you optimize rogue, and this character is kind of doing both at the same time. There's built-in reaction sneak attacks by going Scion at the 3, and then on top of that, we are putting a lot of investment in making sure we have advantage all the time, which just makes us a lot more accurate. But that's not all we get at level 3. We also get Dread Allegiance. Now, this one, there are 3 options, but I'm gonna almost always recommend you go Ball. The reason why is poison damage is the most consistent, so you're gonna get the most consistent resistance. If you don't know what's coming that day, it's safe to assume poison. But more importantly is you're going to get the Blade Ward cantrip. I just talked about how intelligence-based rogues typically have a lower AC. This counteracts that. This bumps up our AC in such a way that we are comparable to dex-based rogues, which is really cool. It gives us an opportunity to be an intelligence-based rogue without a lot of the downside. You might consider Bane if you want some out-of-combat stuff, and you might consider Mirkul if you're specifically facing something with necrotic damage, but overall, when in doubt, go Ball. A discussion on using cantrips, my philosophy is, why not? More often than not, you should be starting combat with this going. If you're not, well, then you're playing with less AC, because you're definitely not missing a sneak attack to get it set up. For our feat, there's a lot of different ways you can go. The most important thing is you just have to take an intelligence-based feat. Some ideas are you can use telekinesis to kind of guide your allies around. Again, you have pretty open bonus actions, so you can do that instead of hiding. Another idea is going Fade Touched, because that way we have Misty Step as an emergency situation get out of jail free card. But for my money, I'm taking Keen Mind. This allows us to be a way better intelligence-based skill monkey because it puts our study action as a bonus action. So now, instead of trading a whole sneak attack, basically which made us never use it and we were only using it outside of combat, now what we're trading is the hide or disengage action. For a study action, we're probably only going to be using once per combat, but the amount of value you can get out of that bonus action once per combat can be insane, again, DM dependent. But just think about how much easier combat would be if you know their resistances, you know their weaknesses, you know what kind of behavior this creature typically follows, and so you know what their goal is, you know what they're trying to do, you know, depending on that amount of information, that whole fight changes. You don't have anyone using a spell that hits a resistance. You have everyone using spells that hit the weakness. That whole combat just got way, way easier. Now, usually I pick up expertise at this point, but instead I'm going to be picking up another proficiency, giving us the suite of all of them. We now have religion. So let's talk about Cunning Strikes a little bit. Withdraw is kind of interesting because it takes away some damage from us in order to basically give us a free disengage action, so we can use dash plus disengage to get really in there and get really far away. Can still play pretty defensive or get in there and then hide right afterwards. So it opens up a lot of flexibility. Now typically the other ones we're not going to want to reduce our damage in order to use. Poison is relying on a Constitution saving throw, which is just not reliable enough for us to give up damage. And Trip is situational. There will be times you want to use Trip, but a lot of times it won't be worth the damage. We also get Uncanny Dodge. Now, Uncanny Dodge takes the reaction slot, so if we're trying to murk someone, as is our nature, then we're going to be wanting to not use this as often as possible, which is pushing us towards that more hit and run, avoid damage playstyle, and having the cantrip that gives us better AC up as often as possible, because we don't want to have to use this, but there's going to be a lot of times when we're not using one of our collection of reaction sneak attacks, bloodthirst sneak attacks, in which case this is up for grabs and it's just good to keep us in the game. With 6 we get expertise. I'm going to be picking up religion and nature here, so every single creature based study check is going to have expertise, which makes us an even better skill monkey than the wizard is at these intelligence based skills, which is really dope. That's a really cool playstyle for a rogue. I like the idea that we just have done so much research on all different sorts of creatures because we're an assassin. It's literally our frickin' job to study how to murder things, and we've studied and studied and studied. That's dope. Level 7 we get evasion, which makes dexterity saves completely negligible. They don't even matter anymore. We also get reliable talent. This is, again, making us an even better skill monkey at what we're doing, which is the study action primarily. It also makes us better infiltrators, better faces. It's just a really, really good feature. When it comes to our level 8 feat, we're definitely going to want to bump our intelligence now. Our intelligence is 5, and as soon as level 8, we are able to do 5 extra sneak attacks per long rest than any other rogue, which is awesome. That means we're going to be really dealing the damage, and the coolest part about Bloodthirst is that it's always dealing damage to someone who's at half health. So we're going to be getting a lot of kills. Should be a lot of fun. The next feature that the Scion of the Three is going to give us comes in at 9. It's called Strike Fear. This gives us a new Cunning Strike option. It's going to hit Wisdom saves for 1d6, and if they fail, they have a multi-turn Frighten save at the end of turns. That's as good as about a second level spell that we're getting to use every single sneak attack for the low cost of 3.5 damage on average. I would definitely recommend doing that. Level 10, I'm going to be picking up an ability score, Dexterity. Taking up Dexterity here is actually huge, because our defense is stacked. So our intelligence-based defense was keeping up with Dexterity-based, but once we get our Dexterity stuff going on, now it's going to increase our AC even further, so we're going to end up with more AC than the other rogues have, which is fantastic. On top of that, it's going to make our sneak attacks more accurate when we're using our reaction sneak attacks, and it's going to make our skills better across the dexterity line. So dexterity is just a really small package that contains a lot of high power for us. We're definitely going to want to pick it up from here onward. Skipping around at 13, you're going to get Aura of Malevolence. Because we went into intelligence, this is better than if we went anywhere else. So again, it's another reason to invest in intelligence. It's going to allow us to do a bit of AoE damage, but I think the most often it's going to be used for is getting more damage on the person we're using our Bloodthirst on, so they're even more likely to die. This is not a huge feature. It does not change your playstyle in a massive way. Then at 17, we get our Capstone, which is Dread Incarnate. This is going to give us an extra Bloodthirst on short rest, so we're going to end up with about 7 throughout the day, and these sneak attacks are hitting like a damn truck at this point. I don't know the average off the top of my head, but I don't need to. I know it's a big chunk of damage, and we're going to be murdering things. On top of that, our sneak attacks do more damage because if we roll a 1 or a 2, the die is treated as a 3. So when I say we're hitting like a damn truck, I mean we're hitting like a damn truck. And with my epic boon, I'm taking Peerless Aim because this turns any miss into a hit, which just guarantees this massive amount of damage that we are putting on. So our accuracy is maxed, and then our reaction attacks is pretty maxed out, and so we are doing the 2 things that rogues need to do to keep up with everybody else, so this should be a really, really strong rogue. That's my build for the Scion of the Three Rogue. I'd love to hear what you guys would do with your first Scion of the Three Rogue. Do you like the subclass? Do you hate the subclass? I personally really, really like it, but I'm open to discussion. All right, my friends, until next time, talk to you later. Peace.